I first just want to thank the Lord for this opportunity. I've been praying for a testimony. I know that God was building up my testimony even before I got to the church, but he really established it here. You know, my testimony didn't start with all the stuff that I've been through in life. It started when I got here. So, but I do need to start my timeline a little bit before I got to the Fire of God Church and tell you a little bit about my life and what I went through. And hopefully as I explain, you get to see the buildup, how God was, you know, grooming my life to get me where I'm at today. I'm sorry. Can I change my shoes real quick? It's, you know, the high heels feel weird on the mat.
So we'll put the link up for the video on band, and I want you to watch again if you can. And for those who stepped out during the video, I would like you to watch it again.
All right. So, Father, I'm up here to glorify you today and to bring you praise and to thank you for all that you've done for me and all that you brought me through. And I pray that my life will be a blessing to your people and that my life will continue to be a blessing to you. And I thank you so much for this opportunity. So, before I got to the church, I was in a relationship prior to Elder Jeremiah, and my relationship, I had Selah. So I was young, about 19 or 18 years old at the time, and I met this nice guy online. So young people, listen closely. I met this guy online, and at the time, I just finished high school, and I just started to go to college. And I was going to community college. I was going to De Anza College in Santa Clara at the time. And I didn't have a major or anything. I was just taking my basic studies and just seeing which way I was going to go. But during that time, you know, I felt a little lonely, and I was just trying to build another part of my life where that I had some sort of excitement. I did have issues with hurt, rejection, insecurity, all that. And there's a big story behind that, and as I tell you guys my testimony, some of it may come out. But I got with this man, and it ended up being a beautiful nightmare. And why I say that is because it's beautiful because my daughter came out of it, but it was a nightmare for me. And I don't think I've ever talked about this in public like that, so I'm gonna try to get through some stuff without crying. So, okay. Okay, so I fell in love with this guy, and we got really close. Like, I felt like head over heels for him. And at the time, I never had any experience with dating. I never had any experience with men. And I didn't have a father figure in my life to say, no, baby, don't do that. Wait, this is not your time. I never had anyone to say or teach me what a good guy looked like, what a bad guy looked like. And to me, everybody was cool. To me, everybody was a good person, you know, and I looked at everybody and gave them a first chance, a second chance, a third chance, and I just thought people were just good people. But I never lived life yet. So when I met this gentleman, he was a sweetheart. Like, he was like a Rico Suave, and he was very handsome. And he was smart, and he was artistic like me. He loved music. He wrote raps. He sung. I did all that. And that was like one of my main connections with him, was all the things that we had in common. And mind you, this is an online thing, okay? We're talking on the phone, we're emailing back and forth. I'm learning about his life on where he was. He was in Maryland, DC, Maryland. That's where he was at the time. And I was in California. And I said, one day I'm gonna meet this guy. One day we're gonna be together. And we did end up together. And I had so many warnings before that happened. But when it happened, it happened. He came out here. We went through a process of things. The abuse happened immediately, like immediately. And my mind was so wrapped up in the situation of that this is a man that I love and I'm gonna stick it out. And just like every foolish girl that goes through abuse, I think I could change him. You know? I think my love and how kind I am and how gentle I am to him, and if he feels safe with me, he'll be fine with me. It's gonna change. No, that didn't happen. Matter of fact, that whole situation changed my life. And I went through constant beatings. I'm sorry, I thought that I could talk about this and go back in time and think about it and express what happened, but as I think about it, it's very heavy. Okay, Lord, help me, Jesus. So I went through constant beatings. I had a lot of crazy things that happened to my body. At that time, I was really trying to build my life with Jesus. And before I met him, my relationship with the Lord was very strong. And I think that's how I ended up here today, because of my time with Jesus prior to this man. I wasn't your normal teenager. Like, I spent a lot of time alone with the Lord, and I wouldn't go out with friends. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't party and do none of that stuff. I was the kid that you saw in the corner reading their Bible. I was me. And I was so sure that my God was real. And even though, life wasn't easy for me and my brother growing up and with my mom, and we had some challenges, I knew Jesus was with me, and I knew he was real. And I devoted all my time to him. And I wasn't afraid to tell people about Jesus, and I wasn't afraid to tell my friends in high school about Jesus, and I wasn't afraid to be called the Jesus freak. And, but eventually all that changed. That young man said a lot of things that I did in high school, but that's another time. But anyway, back to my daughter's father. So I went through a lot of those stages. We ended up homeless together. I was pregnant, homeless. We were in shelters. I had to fight a lot to keep our lives from being destroyed, really, or even Selah being destroyed, because a lot of the beatings, he would attack Selah. Like, I was pregnant at the time, so he tried to kill her a lot. So, one day, when it was time for me to deliver, I was in the hospital, and he was with me, and I looked over at him. I said, "Today is your last day with me. I'm raising this child by myself." And I was so serious and so determined. And I said, "Lord, you've been with me this long. I'm still alive. And now I got a child coming into this world. Things need to change for me." And I'm willing to change, and I'm ready to change, Lord. I'm ready to come back to you. I don't know how I got so far off, but I did. Jesus, forgive me. And I was saying all that in my head. And he looked at me and he smiled. And he looked at me and was like, no, you're not going to get rid of me. And I looked at him, I said, yes, I am. And the nurse came in and I had Selah. And after that, it was a roller coaster ride from hell, I tell you. The day I did get rid of him, the night before, I said a prayer to God and I said, Lord, I said, I'm ready now. Please remove this man from my life. I said, I'm ready to move on and do what you need me to do. I need you to help me. And the next day, he got arrested, went to jail, and left the state. The next day. And I knew God was not playing, and he took my statement very seriously. I jumped over a lot of stuff because I don't have much time. But one of the main things I went through was a lot of the spiritual warfare with this man. He had multiple personality disorders. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Or have you ever seen Lifetime movies? My life was a Lifetime movie. Ooh, I could laugh about it now and cry. That's crazy. One day his name was Jason. One day his name was Jacob. And one was more evil than the other. And one didn't talk, one just beat you. That's all he did. You know, it was just crazy. And I even seen him manifest. Like, before I got to the church, we saw this manifestation. When we got to the church, people, manifesting a lot. I saw that before I got here. I saw that with the man I was with. And no one would believe me till one day I had to call the police. And this is when I was separated from him. I finally separated myself, and he was getting ready to go. This is close to him leaving. And one day I came back to get some more clothes, and he was sitting in the living room and eating. I walked through the door. All of a sudden, he starts manifesting. And he's foaming at the mouth, and he's flopping all over the floor. And I said, Jesus, I gotta get out of this. And my brother was with me. You remember that? My brother was with me. And I had to stay outside with Selah, and my brother went inside to call police. And when the police came, several police officers came. And they tried to hold him down, but they couldn't. And it was some big guys too, about 5 or 6 police officers. And they asked him, what is your name? And he said, my name is Satan. And they were like totally terrified. They did not want to touch him anymore. They said, I'm sorry, honey, we can't do nothing for you. I said, yes, you can, and you're gonna take him out of my house. Yeah, but they did take him. And shortly after that, like I said that prayer, and God got rid of him the next day. But moving forward, it was me and Selah for a while. And I went through a series of things. I was working at Stanford Hospital at the time. I went from being homeless. I was actually homeless at a period of time with Selah. And I was going to school. I was in college as well. I was going to school. And at that time, I was going to school for medical assisting, and they said if I stayed on the honor roll, I could probably get into Kaiser or Stanford. And I said, you know what, Jesus, I'm gonna get this honor roll, and I'm gonna stay on this honor roll. I'm gonna get straight A's. And I did just that. I went through the program, stayed on the honor roll, and I had options at the end of it. And the first option, I was surprised. I couldn't get into Kaiser. I really wanted to, but Stanford took me like immediately. So I got into Stanford Hospital. And when I got into Stanford Hospital, I was in my training process. You got to go through like a 7-week period, and then they hire you on site. So I didn't even finish my 7-week period. I was still in school, and they hired me. And at this time, I was still homeless. And I'm like, okay, God, what's next? What are we gonna do? Like, I gotta get my own place. And eventually things started rolling. He started bringing people into my life to help me and support me, people that was working there at Stanford. And when you're around a bunch of successful people and God's hand is on you and his favor's on you, doors just start opening, and things started opening up for me to help me and my daughter get out of that situation. So fast forward, I ended up getting a second job because Stanford wasn't enough at the time. I did get my own place. I had a little studio with me and Selah. It's right down the street from Stanford. And I said, Lord, I need another job. I need a second job, Jesus. Please help me. I need another job. And it was her principal at the time. I went up to him, I said, hey, do you know anybody that I could work for? Like a little part-time gig. And he said, yeah, actually, I know this older woman who needs some help. And I said, okay, great, I'll take it. And they said, well, they said you can come for an interview in like 2 days. I said, great. I said, wow, this is gonna be a great opportunity for me and my daughter. And I go, I'm the only interview. This is an 80-year-old woman in Burlingame, right there on the border of Hillsborough, very rich area. And the whole family's there. And the family looked at me and said, we have you here today because we don't have any other option for our mother. We're all leaving the country tomorrow, and we need someone to take care of our mother now. And I looked at them, because I think I was like 25 at the time, 24, I was young, 25, and I had Selah. I said, what? I was like, how am I gonna do this? Because they wanted me to live in, and I just got my own place. And they wanted me to be a live-in caregiver. And I said, I don't know how I can do this. I have an 8-hour job at Stanford during the day. How am I gonna take care of an 80-year-old woman and my daughter? And I've saying all this in my head. I'm not saying this out loud because I feel like God was working. So I just like zipped it. And I was like, okay. And I looked at the lady, I said, I could do this. You guys are leaving tomorrow? I'm gonna do this. There's no way I'm gonna leave her by herself, right? I said, this is my test. I felt like it was a test. And so I took it on, and it was me, my daughter, and this lovely old lady. And I lived in her house, which only was supposed to be 6 months, ended up being 2 years. They thought she was gonna die sooner. I didn't know she was dying. I didn't know that I had a dying woman on my hands, but she had dementia like out of this world. And this was my first encounter with dementia and Alzheimer's, and I never had an experience with it. I never had an experience with caregiving. I was a medical assistant, so I served in a different magnitude, not personally, one-on-one, changing diapers, giving showers. I did that back then. And it was very humbling because, one, this lady was super racist. That was the humbling part. And I gotta tell y'all a funny story, because it's time for a funny story. So, you know, before Obama's second term, I lived in Burlingame. Burlingame is super white, okay? You don't see people like me walking down the street in Burlingame, especially by Hillsborough. Anyway, Obama was on the TV, the election was going on. I just cooked dinner for her and I and Selah. I don't know where Selah was at the time. I know she was in the bathroom, her room. But we were just about to get the results of Obama becoming the next president. And I knew how hardcore of a Republican she was and how much she hated Obama. And I was totally neutral. I didn't even know what was going on. I was too busy to think about what's going on. I had 2 jobs now. So she was like, oh, look at these numbers. He can't win, he can't win. And I'm sitting there eating my dinner, just smiling, because I have a feeling this man's gonna win, right? And all of a sudden, they said, Obama's our next president. And she's like, you, get out of my house right now. And I was like, what did I do? What's wrong? She said, you love it, don't you? You're so happy that he won. Look at you, look at you. Get out of my house. Pack all your stuff, take your little kid, and get out of my house. And I was like shaking. I was like, okay, God, problem solving. Let me help her calm her down. I've never seen the side of her, but this is dementia, right? It's dementia's coming out. And I said, look, I don't even like the man anyway. Look at his head. Got a peanut head. We don't even care about this guy. Just turn off the TV. And she was like, are you sure you don't like him? I said, I'm so sure, Mama, I promise you. I hate this man. You know? And so I heard her turn off the TV, and we were safe. We were safe. I was able to stay in the house. We didn't get kicked out. The police didn't come. You know, she was going to call the police, but I knew she couldn't because her fingers was like this. Because she had and I'd never seen her pick up a phone before, so I was like, okay, no, you're not going to call the police. We're okay. But, sorry, I had to do something funnier for you. But that's how I got started, and I want to jump into something next. You know, God gave me that job, and I had no idea about the future that I was heading into. I got to go to this next topic before I jump into that. We're going to see the dots connect here. But the next thing is that during that time, I was going to a church, and at this church, they said that my husband was going to be a pastor. I had got prophesied over prior to coming here. And it was a long prophecy. I don't remember all that. But I remember that my husband was going to be a pastor. And I said, what? I don't want to be with no pastor. What is this? That's not a good word. What are you telling me? Right? I didn't know anything about pastoralship. I didn't know about leadership. I didn't know anything about the importance of God's government and how he's setting up things and how important it was for me to be with the right man because he was trying to do something with me. I had no clue. But I said, okay, I guess that's a good thing. He's not going to beat me, so that's cool. He's a pastor. Good man. You know, I was thinking these things. And I was like, okay, praise God. And shortly after that, the woman that I was taking care of, time was coming to an end. And I was reading Pastor Kim's book online. But prior to that, I got to talk about this because this is going to make sense as to why I ended up here in this church. I actually had a falling out with my mom before I got to this church. I was actually very angry at my mom, and I hated her very much. With a passion. I was very mad. And I didn't talk to her for almost a year. And I did pray to God during that time because I was so devastated at what happened between us. And I just made up in my mind, you know, just me, you, Jesus, and my baby. That's it. I'm not doing this no more. I was so angry. But I didn't realize that God was going to change that and fix that situation. But he did, and I'm going to tell you how. Before I got to this church, I was reading a book online and off of Spirit Lessons. SpiritLessons.com. I know some of y'all been on there. That's how we found this book, right? That's how we got here. So, Baptized by Blazing Fire. And I done read everything on that site, but I read that particular book, and that just blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. Because as I was reading stuff, I read about the manifestation, and I said, I seen that. I seen that through my daughter's father. I seen all this stuff. Like, I've dealt with all this stuff. And even when growing up, I saw certain things, and I just was a little sensitive like that. And I said, wow, this is legit. I really believe that this man went through this. I believe this pastor and his testimony. I believe this is God. And I read all the books. And I was in that place where I was just hungry and thirsty. And I know it came to me because I told the Lord prior to finding the books, the Lord, I need you. I'm desperate for you. Please come find me again. And because I was lost. I was so lost. I was angry. I was bitter. I was fat. Y'all, I was 300 pounds. I probably was more before I got here, okay? I was big. I was a big girl, and I didn't realize it. But I was going down in a very fast way. But I was desperate. I knew I had another chance, and I knew if I just called on Jesus, he's going to help me, just like he helped me last time I called on him. And so I did that. I said, Lord, you got to change my life, or I don't know where I'm going to end up. I need you to fix this. And then that's when I found the book, And then one day, my mama called me. Now, my mom called me several times, and I ignored all her phone calls. I was so mad. I just couldn't. I said, I can't go through this anymore. I'm not going to answer these calls. And one day she called me, and something in me prompted me to answer the phone. And I answered the phone. And she told me about the book that she was reading. And she told me that a pastor was opening up a church in Fremont, and he was still needing to find a building. And she was, talking to him back and forth. And that Pastor or Bishop Kim was going to have a service at his church and asked me if I wanted to come. Now, mind you, I didn't say nothing. My mom didn't know at the time that I was reading the book too. And, I knew that was God. I knew God was trying to fix and mend our situation, and that's why I ended up here, because of that phone call and because of the book. And that's how, we had a commonality there, and I couldn't deny that that was Jesus trying to work stuff out. So I came, and when I got here, it was just, when you get here, God, like Pastor talked about, God raised you up right away. And I've been bouncing around on all kinds of churches and different places and different gatherings and convictions and crusades, and been all over the place doing random stuff and different ministries. But this was the place God wanted me to stay planted. And he fixed it where I stayed planted, because he went after a key thing that I love so much, and that was music. And when I got there, he's like, okay, Pastor Eugene came up to me and said, you are going to be our next worship leader. The Lord told me you could sing. And I knew, not then, but later on, I knew the Lord trapped me. But I'm happy he trapped me, because my whole life has changed ever since then. And I'm going to get to more about that in a minute. But shortly after that, I'm about to get to the goodies now, because I got to speed it up. Shortly after that, about 2 months later, Elder Jeremiah, my husband, comes to the church. I think at that time I was still working my 2 jobs, and I didn't see him at first because I only could come on Sundays at the time. But my mom saw him, and she came up to me. She said, oh, you see that guy in the church? And I was like, who? And she said, there is a brother here with his kids, and he's a very nice looking man. And I was like, okay. I said, I haven't seen him yet. I haven't met him yet. I have no idea what she's talking about yet. So I said, okay. And she was all giddy when she came and talked to me about it. I don't know if my mom remembers that, but she did it. But eventually I did meet Elder Jeremiah. And, at the time, it was a very small church. It was like Pastor Eugene, Elder Sarah, Elder Joseph, Nathan, a couple other people, and all our kids. Like, it was a very small church. My mom, me, Selah. Like, it was a very small, compacted church. And everybody knew everybody, and you could not have no secrets, because everybody gonna know it. And at that time, me and Jeremiah and my family, the only black people in the church. This is a Korean church right now at the time, right? So we just hung out with each other. Like, we just connected, like, immediately and just started talking. And I don't think it was even a week or two, maybe a few weeks. And Pastor Eugene gives me a call. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning, because at that time we stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning praying. And it was about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I finally get home, and I get a phone call from Pastor Eugene. And she goes, she asked me, so what's going on between you and Jeremiah? And I said, huh? She said, yeah, something's there. She said, I don't know yet, but I'm going to go pray about it. And I'm going to find out. I said, okay, praise God. And I said, oh, Lord, no. I was thinking to myself, is it because we the only black people in church and we supposed to be together? So like me and Elder Jeremiah, we actually hit it off like really cool. Like we would end up being like really good friends, and we just connected. We had a lot in common. He worked at Kaiser Hospital. I worked at Stanford Hospital, so we had that medical thing in common. He liked music. I like music, so we had the music thing in common. And it made it even more legit when God put him on the worship team. So now we can get closer and talk and get to know each other. And eventually we started hanging out more. And then eventually we got to have some one-on-one time at the church. And you know, that's very rare. You can't have that unless God give you that permission. That's how it rolls. We don't roll like that here. You gotta get permission. So God gave us, I got 30 minutes? Oh, hallelujah, let me hurry up. Let me move faster. 30 minutes more, okay. So we got to know each other, and we didn't get together yet. There was a lot of things that were going on during that time. Pastor Eugene came back to me and talked to me and said she had a dream. And in the dream, I was all dressed up in a wedding dress. He was wearing a suit. And I was on one side of the lobby. He was on the other side of the lobby. There was this big gap between us, big chasm. She let me know that that was my husband, but we weren't ready yet. It wasn't ready to, come together yet. I think I didn't have a veil at that time, so really, I was the one that really wasn't ready. And it shocked the both of us, actually, because she knew a lot more of his background, knew a lot more of my background, and we all thought he wasn't ready, but it was really me who wasn't ready. And so as time went on, even though I wasn't ready, God showed me first who my husband was. And I skipped a little part, but I'll go back to something that I prayed privately in my heart, and this is why my outcome came the way that it did. But it was a year and a half before Elder Jeremiah came around and realized I was his wife. So for a year and a half, I couldn't just outright come out and say anything. I had to just be his friend. But while I was friend, he was dating somebody. And it was like, I guess for him, it was getting pretty serious. And I had to tell this story. One time we had a revival, and he talked to me about this girl. Now, she was a worship leader at another church, and she was a pastor's daughter, and she had a prophetic gift, and she told him that he was supposed to be her husband. So Elder Jeremiah was like this limbo in our church. He wasn't quite sure what to do at the time, because, pastors were talking to him, and he's supposed to be my friend, and he's like, what's going on with her? Because I'm not interested in her, I'm interested in her. He's like trying to, I guess our friendship was just like an afterthought, because he was in something. But for me, I spent a lot of time praying in the background, asking God to break all that up, And that's something me, Pastor Jesus, we would sit there pray. We pray together, break all that up, Jesus. That's what we talked about together at the time. So he did. The Lord did break it up. But before we got to that point, there was this one revival where the young lady came. Now, I never met her before in my life, but she had like 2 or 3 kids. Is that right? 3 kids. And she had one strapped on to her. You know how I walk around with Joel with that strap? She had one strapped on to her. And 2 little kids. And Pastor used to come up to me, she said, Janina, she's here. And I'm like, who? She said, that girl. And she ain't even cute. I was cracking up so hard. And I said, okay, I got to see this girl, right? So I go out there and I see her, and she debating with Pastor Steve at times. She debating with Pastor Steve. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on in that corner? She is trying to pull Jeremiah out of the church. She was trying to pretty much say our church was a cult and we crazy and all that stuff, right? So he was in a situation, he was in a dilemma, really. He was trying to figure out which way to go, what to do. And I'm sorry, honey, I feel like I'm telling all your stories. But yeah, this is how we got together. So I guess he kept seeing this girl, and I guess one day he came back home from a trip with his boys, and they go on this trip like, I guess once a year or something. He came home and he found a letter in his mailbox, and the letter in his mailbox basically described everything that him and the girl were doing. Mind you, she is a pastor's daughter, worship leader in a very prominent church, like a very popular church, and she's well known. But there was a situation behind her that kind of pushed Jeremiah out of the situation and focused back on what God was doing here, because he was asking for answers, and God gave him the answer. And a letter basically warned him to get away from this girl. We know what you're doing. You're sinning. Get out of the situation. And at this time, this woman was legally married, okay? It was like a whole shebang-a-bang of story, right? Do you mind if I tell a story, honey? Okay. And at the time, he was, too. It was all, like, he didn't have a full divorce yet. Like, there was stuff going on, and that lady was like, you're my husband, you're supposed to be with me, and he's torn. He's like, he actually believed that that could be a possibility. And then here I am having to pray a lot, because I'm like, okay, God, if you said this is my husband, then I know you're going to make a way, and I know you're going to stop whatever's happening from happening. So I trust you with this, and I'm going to pray that you break this up. And he did. When he got that letter, that was like confirmation that he needed to sever ties with the lady. And so he did get out of that situation, but we still had another situation, because the Lord wanted him to pray for a wife, right? So I pray for a wife. But yeah, he went to pray for a wife, but I wasn't part of any of those options. It was 3 other women, and I did not make the cut. But I did eventually make the cut, you see. But when he prayed, he had a dream, and he told me the dream. I thought it was crazy. So he prayed about those 3 girls, and in a dream, he said he opened up his hands, and he saw 3 spiders. And so God was basically saying, none of them it's the girl, not one, right? So that's brought his attention back towards me. And then we started talking more, and then one day, Pastor Steve, Pastor Eugene called us in for a meeting, but him first. At that time, they thought he was jerking me around, because he didn't really show that he was even interested or cared. But, of course, I was interested, because I knew that was going to be my husband. But they were seeing things like, oh, no, you're not going to play around with her. Either you're serious about her or you're not serious. Leave her alone. That was what the meeting was supposed to be about, okay? But the meeting turned completely. We will go in the meeting. He goes first. And I think Pastor Eugene asked him, do you like Janina? Right? Is that what she asked you? Well, I remember everything. I'm going to tell it. He said, well, do you like Janina? And he said, yeah, I like Janina. She's like, would you marry Janina? Pastor Eugene don't hold back. She going to ask you the ballpark questions. And he was like, yeah, I think I would marry Janina. And she's like, oh! And she runs out. And she's like, Janina, it's time. I said, time for what? Oh, everything, like, from my heart, everything just fell out my behind, I think. I was just standing there, like, totally scared, nervous. I was like, what in the world is going on in that office, right? And I go in. She's like, come on, let's go. So I go in, and I sit down, look at him, and I sit down. I said, oh, God, what's happening right now? And then she goes, you know what he said? So I asked him, would you marry Janina? And he said, yes. And I said, for real? I was just so shocked. Like, the whole situation was so shocking. And because I did not see that coming, like, at all. And that soon. I thought that was something I would have to keep waiting for a long time. And it just happened, like, really quick. Like, felt like overnight. And before you know it, we were engaged, and it took us, 4 months, and then we got married. Don't forget about the jacket. Oh, the jacket. I don't think I have time for the jacket. But I don't have time for that. But that's how we met. But since God put us together, God also started putting other things together. And that was, he wanted me to start focusing on my weight. Now, I told you I came, before the church, I was over 300 pounds. When I came to church, I was 300 pounds. I was the original Jabba. Okay, I came looking like an alien. I was the original Jabba. I'm a number one Jabba, first Jabba walked through the doors of the church, okay? And it's true. So, but, you know, Pastor Steve, Pastor Eugene, they told me before I got married, you should probably lose weight. And in my head, I'm thinking like, for real? I'm fat? I didn't realize I was fat, y'all. That's the bad part. No one told me till I got to the church that I was big. You know, I thought that was just me and I was comfortable, but I knew that wasn't me. I knew that was from trauma and that was from pain and issues that I went through, and it just piled up on me. Like, it just really, like, I felt like somebody took a pile of fat and just threw it at me, and I woke up the next morning, it's big. That's what I felt like. And I actually was 145 pounds for a long time prior to church. I actually was normally skinny. I was an athlete. I played basketball. I did track. I did all that. I was super fit. I was super healthy. I really did care about my body at one point. So to get fat like that was pretty bad. It's pretty traumatic. And then when that was pointed out to me, I actually, instead of fixing it, I went into depression. I said, oh no, I'm married, and this man probably don't find me attractive at all because I'm huge, right? So I'm like thinking all these things. I'm like, okay, I said, I gotta figure this out. I gotta lose this weight somehow. And I did go through a season where I actually lost the weight. I lost 120 pounds. And that was my first weight loss. And I was 150 pounds at the end of the weight loss. I started at Lord help me with numbers. I'm not good with numbers. I started at 280 or 290 when I decided to really start chipping away. And when I lost the weight, it was fast. It was dramatic. I really felt that was God because he gave me a lot of grace to fast. I did the fist side fast. I did the 1 meal. I was on Pastor Eugene fast. So you know it was going to work. And it worked. But the problem was I didn't change my mind. My mind had to change. When you lose weight, you just don't lose the body fat. You got to change your mind. Okay, everything has to change. The way you think, the way you look at food, the way you look at your life, the way you look at your body, the way you see who you are has to change. And, at some point, I started gaining some of the weight back, and then I got pregnant. But before I got pregnant, I was back on my weight loss journey, and then I got pregnant. And after pregnancy, I was 220. And today, I'm 175. And I'm still trucking away at it, but I'm super happy with where my body is right now. Like, I thank God that he's been helping me with that. And I could tell you a few things that I did in the process. That's what I wanted to share about with today, because I know some of you guys noticed that I lost a lot of weight and been coming up to me and asking me what I've been doing. And one of the main things that jump-started my weight loss is first pastor put me on a fast. So I really stuck to that, and I just started working out again. I didn't work out on my last weight loss. I just ate better. And this time I worked out, I ate better, and I learned how to sustain my weight. Not just lose it, but get to a place where you can sustain it and not gain it back, or at least have control. You don't want the weight to control you. You want to be able to control the weight. But like, no, we're not going backwards. I really do talk to my body. I know that sounds crazy, but I talk to my body. I said, I'm sorry, honey, we're not going to get fat no more. You're not going to gain the weight. We're not going backwards. I don't care. We're not eating that. That has too much sodium. You know your body does not like sodium. And so I really talked to myself, and it's been helping me. But one of the first things that I did after I got on the fast was I did a cabbage soup diet. And this cabbage soup diet, it's on YouTube. It's actually pretty popular. And this one girl, she did it. She lost 20 pounds in 6 days. I'm like, how you lose 20 pounds in 6 days? I was like, she must have been throwing up. She must have been doing something else crazy. You know, you just can't lose 20 pounds in 6 days. That's crazy. That's dangerous. You probably die, right? But I looked into it. She did the cabbage soup diet, and it's just cabbage, carrots, onions, garlic. I put apple cider vinegar in it. She put mushrooms. It's very simple. And the point is, stay away from sodium. So I didn't use chicken broth and all this other stuff to flavor it up and doctor it up. I use natural herbs and natural seasonings and things like that. And you put a little tad of pink Himalayan salt, just so you can handle it, because you're doing it for 5 to 6 days. But I did it for 5 days, and the first day I lost 5 pounds of water weight on the first day. And then by the end of the 5 days, I didn't eat nothing else. That's all I ate was the water and the cabbage soup, and I lost 12 pounds in 5 days. So when I saw that I was able to do that, I said, okay, God, this is gonna jumpstart my system. Now I can start the true diet. What I've been eating is actually gonna be more effective, because now I know how to lose the weight. I know how to sustain and keep it off. So I started working out. I started doing high intensity workouts. For me, my mind just had to change. I got really determined this year. I said, there's no way I'm gonna go backwards on my weight. God is expecting more from me. God is expecting me to change and to bear fruit. And years ago, the Lord told me, he said, it's gonna be hard for you to bear fruit, but I'm gonna help you. And it has been hard for me to bear fruit. It's been very hard. I know you guys see me in these positions and things like that, but that's God's grace. It's been hard for me to develop into what God is designing me to be, and that's a leader. And how he's been helping me with that. When I got with Elder Jeremiah, we started a business. God came to us and told us to start a business. And guess what business that was? Senior care. And that's where I started before I came here. I had to take care of an 80-year-old woman, and he gave me a little taste of what it was going to be like before we started the business. And I see the momentum and the process. It takes time. It takes time to develop, and benefit from the process. You have to just really just go slow. And I saw the beauty of going slow when I got to Fire of God Church. Nothing really ever happened fast for me. Nothing happened fast for Elder. And doing the business was an example of that. When we started the business, Pastor tell you, we started with $20 bubble bath. Yeah, we did that $20 bubble bath faithfully, okay? Went up there, took care of that man. And sometimes he wanted you to cook something, right? But within all that $20, change him, give him a bath, cook something, even pick up a little bit around his house, And he did it. And pretty soon, I ended up with a bubble bath. But mine was $75. So we started moving on up a little bit, little increments. But we went almost a whole year with no real business. No real business. All that money we got, when he sold his house and his retirement, we ate that up. That was like vapor in the wind. And we really had to trust God and really have faith, especially, he had to really have faith. We both really had to have faith that the Lord was going to come through and take care of us, that he wasn't just going to let us fall, And so that started my journey. God actually put the burden on me as the wife. You the wife. You have to bat first. So the burden to carry the business and to get it started falls on me. And one day we had this big client, and this client paid for our rent. This client covered a lot of our expenses. God was taking care of us through this one client, 24-hour client. But what came along with that is that I had to give my time. I literally was away from home 4 days out of the week, sometimes 5, 24 hours a day. I had to separate myself from my family to take care of this woman. Because this was my first real client, you know, she spoke Spanish too, like fluently. That means she didn't speak English to me, guys. Like, I had to learn how to speak Spanish. This is, like, God was really breaking me in all areas. Not only did we just move into this nice place, I didn't get to live in it. I spent my time in somebody else's home to take care of them. 4 or 5 days out of the week, 24 hours a day, that didn't understand a word I was saying to her. And I couldn't understand her. And there were times, many times I cried, and I was just so sad, but I still felt God was with me. I felt like I had to go through this. I said, Lord, I know I got to go through this. I know I got to go low. That was my mind. This is going low. And not only that, I changed her diapers. She was stuck in bed 24 hours a day. So I had to care for someone that was stuck in bed 24 hours a day, that spoke Spanish fluently, that didn't understand anything I was saying, nor did her family understood, why is this black young lady in my house taking care of my family member, and she don't understand what she's saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, how is she going to take care of her? But by the grace of God, I did it. Like, he worked it out. I learned Spanish, not fluently, but I learned enough to have conversations to get through the care, to take care of her. And God showed up every time. Even though it was hard, it was very hard at times. She was actually at a very high level of dementia, and it was really hard to deal with that. It's one thing to handle someone that speaks English and has a mental illness, but someone who speaks Spanish and has a mental illness, that was a whole nother ball game. So this is around the clock, and she didn't sleep either. When you have dementia, you have it's called sundowning. So you stay up all night, and you sleep all day, and that was the situation. So I did that for almost 2 years, actually, because it was a constant back and forth. As I started hiring people and got people to work around the clock, and I actually had Spanish speaker workers that really helped nurture this client and take care of her. That was I think I would have to say that was my Joseph stage. That was my prison. I lived in those 4 walls, serving and taking care of this woman. But while I was doing that, God was blessing everything I was doing. He was blessing my household. He was blessing my children, blessing my husband. While I was over there working, God was breaking me, but yet he was still giving me favor where I was. And the family loved me so much, they kept me even longer. And they was like, look, we love your services. You take good care of our family member, and we want to keep you. We don't care, well, you know, who you bring in or what you have to do. Just stay here with her. And so I did that until I found the right people. Then God eventually pulled me out of that situation. So I thank God I passed that test. But recently we lost her, right? Recently we lost that client, and then God did something amazing. Our business went from $20 bubble bath to we're making 6 figures a year now through the business. And, you know, at first people want to laugh at the slow route, the long route, but the long route creates longevity for you. Longevity, and you want to have a foundation that is sustainable and stable. And only if you do God's will, and only if you do what God had designed you to do and called you to do, or whatever mission you're on right now, just complete it and complete it with joy. You know, during that downtime, I spent a lot of time in prayer. I spent a lot of time in reading. I had a lot of downtime. I didn't waste it. Yes, I cried, and I had stress, and I had worries, and I had fears. I'll call Pastor Steve, and I'd be crying, and he'll be checking me. I was a businesswoman now, and that had to snap in my head that you had to handle business, Elder Janina. This is a real talent God had given me. You know, Pastor's talking about the talents. I see the business as a talent. And I had to nurture this, and I had to make sure that I double this. And God's watching me. He's watching my attitude. He's watching, you know, how I respond to my authorities when they're advising me and giving me coaching on how to handle it, how to handle the money, how to handle the people, how to handle the clients. Go out there and get it. Go out there and do it. I had so much fear because I was a nobody. I came from nothing, and now I got this big responsibility. I was terrified. And not only that, I had to carry the weight for my family because you the wife, you first. And I knew it was on me to start making these right decisions. So I just thank the Lord, you know, for that time and that season because he taught me how to be a businesswoman. Like, now I'm running business. Now I have facilities I look after and send people out to. 5 minutes? Ooh, Jesus, okay. Real quick, in 5 minutes. So the Lord started putting people in our house throughout the years. We had youth pastor, we had Kelsey. We had somebody else you know about. Let me end this with a quick funny story because I got 5 minutes and I didn't realize I talked too much, y'all. I'm sorry. So I sent this young lady out to take care of one of my clients in Antioch, a really close friend of mine. And the first day was great. But the second day, I got a terrifying phone call. This is the family, my friend, my very close friend. She said, Janina, you got to get to my mama's house. You got to go right now. And I said, why? What's wrong? She said, that girl you sitting over there, she crazy. Go get her out of my mama's house. And I said, oh my God, okay. So I grabbed Kelsey. Kelsey went with me. She remembered. I grabbed Kelsey. We went out there to Antioch. And oh my goodness, we walked in the house. The woman, I could hear her screaming in the living room, saying, she crazy, get out, she crazy, she crazy. And I go running there, and I said, Mom, what happened? What happened? And she said, this woman, something's wrong with her. And this woman had a stroke. She couldn't even speak. She started speaking to me in clear sentences. That's how terrified she was. And she said, she is crazy. She was doing some dancing and just screaming in my living room. So I found out she was praying in the living room, screaming and chanting. Like, woo! Doing all these crazy things in front of my client. And I said, oh God, how am I gonna fix this? This is a close friend of mine. How am I gonna fix this? And I talked to her, I said, don't worry, Mom, I'm gonna take care of it. And here comes around the corner. Elder, I don't understand why she's acting like that. I'm not crazy, she's crazy. Look at her, why are you lying to her? And I looked at her and I said, okay, I think it's time we're gonna end our day today, okay? You can go home. It's okay, you can go home. And the lady was like, get out of my house and don't ever return to my house ever again. I never want to see you again. Get out. It was so bad. And it was like damage control out of this world. But that's just a little bit of things that I had to go through. That's just one thing. There were several other things that I went through just running this business and dealing with dementia clients or just dealing with employees and staffing and just people. But real quick, I'm gonna shut it down because I have to close it out now. Did I cover everything, Pastor? I did. Oh, thank you, because there's so much. I didn't know how I was going to get it all out, y'all. I didn't know all this was going to come out. Part 2? Oh, praise God. I think I got a whole book. I don't know. They're asking for me back? Okay. Yes, okay, there's a lot. There's a lot to talk about, but I just want to give God the glory. And I want to tell you, like, God is watching what you do in secret and what you do privately, and how you utilize your time in that downtime where you're at the bottom. The bottom's not that bad, you guys. The bottom's not that bad. Now I see the outcome of being and going low. You know, I wiped so many behinds, I can't tell you how many. You know? More than my own baby. Like, I've done some things that you guys would be amazed what I had to do. But I'm happy to do it because, one, I love people, and I know God put me in this business because my heart for people, and he's also trying to make my heart look more like his. And I realized that's what he was trying to do. He's trying to love the unlovable. And even though that young lady that was in my house had that problem with my client, I still saw potential for her to change and grow and get established here in our church and develop and do what God wanted her to do. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I still have hope for people who come in and out of my house, who come in and out of this church, and I hope my testimony would motivate people. Like, you can start from the bottom, and God can raise you to the top, but don't look down at the process. Don't look down at the waiting. Don't rush to the top, okay? Just like you said, don't rush to the top. Wait. I actually prefer waiting. Longevity is better. And I just thank God that he put me through what I went through and put my family through what we went through. And I'm willing to go further for him and do whatever he asks me to do. And I pray that I can continue to give him the glory. Amen.
All right, amen.